Welcome to Uniting the Cults, another episode of Why is Everybody Stupid? This one, how certain are you that Islam is God-made or man-made? So this is for Muslims and ex-Muslims. And I asked everyone to reply before reading this. So I saw this question in another sub. I answered, but nobody replied, so I decided to post my reply here. I'm certain Islam is man-made with the same certainty level that I have for 1 + 1 = 2, and for the tooth fairy is bullshit. My reasoning, I know thousands of flaws with Islam, and I need only one flaw to know that it is false. Regarding 1 + 1 = 2, I don't know any flaws with that idea. Regarding the tooth fairy, it's the same with Islam. I know tons of flaws with it. And so the way I did this is I gave examples of likening a couple of other ideas to this one, instead of kind of saying, like, I can imagine people saying, I am 100% certain, and I could imagine people saying, I'm 99% certain. And these numbers are meaningless. I wanted to explain, like, the logic of this. Like, what would make me change my mind about 1 + 1 = 2? You'd have to find a flaw. I'd have to find a flaw with it. What would make me change my mind about Islam? Every one of the flaws I see, I would have to be convinced that it's not a flaw anymore. Every single one. So let's see. Somebody says Islam was made by men and made for men. So they didn't want to answer the question. Maybe because they recognize the thing I said, like saying 100% certain versus 99% certain is meaningless. There are many special privileges given to Muhammad, such as he was caught having sex with a slave by his wives, and then he revealed a verse in Quran that says, "O Prophet, why do you prohibit yourself from what Allah has allowed you?" And other is he had 11 wives, and other men were to have 4. Then there are many stories you might have heard from your elders about Zamzam water and Isa and Moses, about moon splitting and him traveling to Jannah. So I think what he's describing is a bunch of things that he sees as flaws. And then he says, there's no proof of them yet. Muslim believe, no proof of them. Like, there's no reason to believe in them. There's no evidence that helps you decide anything. These were definitely made up by Muhammad. So he's saying they're made up. He said definitely. So I like this way this person replied, because they just explained why they don't believe in Islam. Obviously made by desert men. Besides, the whole prophethood system is flawed concept to begin with. Okay, this person does say it. I'm 100% certain that Islam is man-made. My reasoning is this. If Islam is God-made, then the Quran's claim as it being the direct word of God needs to be true. For the Quran to be the direct word of God, it would need to be free of all contradictions and errors. The Quran has many errors and contradictions that simply cannot be reconciled without resolving to fallacies. But that doesn't reconcile it. The Quran isn't from God. Islam is man-made. So I like this. Even though he said this, he said his reasoning. And like, for him to switch his mind, or her to switch his mind away from this conception, to think that Islam is true, he'd have to be convinced that he's wrong about every one of these. Non-Muslim view here, Avoriaz in summer. The religion is full of ancient human foibles, fables, and no sign of any divine or supernatural traits whatsoever. Islam is as man-made as every other religion and ideology I've seen. The Quran is as man-made as the complete works of Shakespeare. Yep. And it's a less good man. It's man-made. All religions are man-made. One DDAT says, if one is an approximation, example, rounded to the nearest integer, then 1 plus 1 can equal 3. There's other maths where it can be any number, but that involves equations. I don't understand. I think that involves rounding. In terms of certainty about Islam, it would be 100.0000 divided by 100. That it is man-made. So I said, but 1 plus 1 equals 2 does not let you squeeze in the idea of rounding, since rounding wasn't mentioned. To go along with what you're trying to do, imagine this. If you make a hole in the ground and then another one next to it, how many holes do you have? Now imagine that someone did this, but the holes were so close that it ended up as being just one bigger hole. So 1 plus 1 equals 1. That's no squeezing. There's no squeezing involved. It's been wrongly assumed in 1 plus 1 equals 2 that 1 always means exactly 1. In real life, it doesn't work like that. Measurements are always approximations with a margin of error that show up as 1 plus 1 equals 3. But I think that's because of rounding around us and leads people to describe the occurrence as a miracle. Really? I want to find out. All right, that's it for this one.